You call me Lily, my mother Eve, blamed with Delilah, christened the child I grieve. If you finally call me, I won't carry your shame. Sin next to murder, from which you were saved. Gave me a new name, you shielded my pride, covered my shoulders, veiled me with your lies. Do I hear you calling? Do I answer to you? You call me Jezebel. You made this body my gift and your spell. Promised me heaven, but put me through hell. So if you call me, say my name, not Jezebel. I carry your cross, play the role you wrote. You still said unworthy, my battered heart smoked. Shall I forget I was struck by your stone first of all? Stole my innocence for my father's fall. You forget me and think I'll come when you call. You call me Jezebel. You made this body my gift and your spell. Promised me heaven, but put me through hell. So call me, say my name, not Jezebel. The children you buried cry from under your feet. Take back this new name. Yeah, rout and retreat. I'll answer to my name if it drags me to hell. Say my name, better say my name. Say my goddamn name, not Jezebel.
Yeah. Let it never be forgot that here at Hellfire Agency, also known as the Church of Korihor, this godless mission of this godless congregation, we go hard. Yeah. I was going to show you guys one of my candidate opener songs for Undergrounder, because we're going to talk about Tim Ballard today. But I'm working on this song, Jezebel, for the second, maybe third trailer I have attempted to make to raise funding for my documentary about Mormons and sex. That's the third trailer. This is the third investor trailer I'll have made in 10 years. And it's the one I'm most excited about. This documentary is mostly shot already. It just needs to be finished. Anyways, hi. You want to hear about Tim Ballard? Sure you do. Come here. I want to show you something. So I'm gonna share my screen here. Let's see. We're gonna tab. Yeah, we'll tab over here to Epstein Ballard. If you don't know, here, let me go ahead and put it up on the screen. Oh, hold on. Remove that. And then we put this up. How do we? Okay. There we go. Jeez, man. The world is a weird place. All right. So the screen that you see here on the screen, the screen you see on the screen, is the Ballard. Hey, how's it going, friends? Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for being here. Be kind in the comments. We'll put them up on the screen. Everybody, weigh in. Say hi. Say something. If you're gonna say something dirty, make it funny or sexy or both, or the mods will kick you out. Just kidding. We don't have mods. We go hard. All right. If you don't know, you can find this at corahor.org/Epstein Ballard. And what we are doing here is not implicating anybody necessarily in crimes. This is a true crime series in which we are investigating at the moment the possible connections, the first, second degree, especially connections between one Timothy Ballard, formerly of Operation Underground Railroad fame, also sometimes known for Sound of Freedom fame, though, as I have pointed out before, he has legally had to come out and say through his counsel that that film, Sound of Freedom, has nothing to do with him. Weird. The American legal system is very strange because, of course, you can find all kinds of examples of him saying exactly the opposite thing, and yet he managed to get away with that. It's a weird world. We're trying to discover all of the first and second degree connections and or other connections between Timothy Ballard and one Jeffrey Epstein, of whom you may have heard. And I have created this app that people can go and take a look at and zoom in and zoom out and even click on any of these nodes. For example, here we've selected Elon Musk. Once you've done that, you can scroll down and you can read about that person and their associations with both Jeffrey Epstein and Tim Ballard. It's a work in progress. We're still figuring out a lot of the things that we don't know. What we don't know, we don't know. And again, we're not trying to track down actual crimes. What we're trying to do here is build the network of how these two individuals, one of them, one of the world's most renowned trafficker, perhaps, and the other one, the most renowned, supposedly, anti-trafficking activist or experts and international man of mystery, and how they actually swim in the same circles. And I'm not suggesting for a moment that Tim Ballard knew Jeffrey Epstein. If he did, I would guess that Jeffrey Epstein wouldn't care who he was. Wouldn't have any reason to be afraid of him either. Because I strongly suspect, as many of you know, Tim Ballard is a phony. He is a big fraud. And what's worse is the associations between them are, they give one pause. So when this screen loads, you're going to notice right away that there is a red scarlet string or crimson string between various nodes on this map. These are people within this whole matrix who so far we have been able to ascertain that they are within 2 degrees separation of both Jeffrey Epstein and Tim Ballard. Now let's be clear what I'm saying here. Virtually anybody can be within 2 degrees of just about anybody. Okay, which just means that either you know that person, or that person knows a person, right? And that could be people that you have no idea who they are. The more mutual associations an individual has, the more hot the leads get to say, I bet you, these people, some of these second degree people are actually first degree, and something's not quite right. So Looks like bubble corn. Anyways, everybody hear me okay? Go ahead and weigh in on the comments. I'm going to be over here on this other screen, so you're mostly talking to yourself. But I wanted to go over a few of these mutual associations, okay? Otherwise, we have all these other associations. Basically, if a person is first degree associated with any person already on here, they could wind up in the matrix, and it certainly does not mean that they are guilty of any crimes, as I said before. But we are looking to see where those mutual connections are. Where do we see the people running in the same circles? And when this close mutual toggle is toggled on, you'll see I just toggled it off and that crimson string went away. When it's toggled on, all persons who are within 2 degrees separation from both Tim Ballard and Jeffrey Epstein are highlighted. We have some of our usual suspects, of course. We have Donald Trump. When I selected, whoops, sometimes I would click one thing and accidentally click something else. Thought I clicked the chosen. We're not talking about the chosen at the moment, though that's when we probably could. I'm trying to talk about Donald Trump here. Just trying to talk about Trump, baby. Okay, when you select a node inside here, you can select up to 3 nodes at a time. Then that person's card will come up over here. If you find that there's not enough room to really read it, you just hover over your mouse over to the side. I'm still trying to figure out how to make this display appropriately, you guys, but you just scroll over here and then it lets you scroll down. So here's Donald Trump, and underneath here, it's going to read the mutual associations to Tim Ballard and to Jeffrey Epstein. It says Donald Trump is connected to Tim Ballard, 1 degree to Tim Ballard, meaning that Donald Trump brought Tim Ballard on as one of his advisors on his advisory council about trafficking. They know each other personally, and Donald Trump has been on Tim Ballard's podcast because, of course, as every president does. And then, and of course, they promote each other's work all the time. And Tim and Donald Trump has so far effectively hosted 2 screenings of the Sound of Freedom, the film, that, according to Tim Ballard, is both based on his life and all about him, and also not at all based on him, and not at all and completely a work of fiction, depending on whether or not you are the Supreme Court of the state of Utah. In any event, Donald Trump to Tim Ballard, 1 degree. Donald Trump's former associate of Jeffrey Epstein, 1 degree. So there you go. Now, one of the things that I have added in here, it's a feature. Don't go trying to do this for yourselves now. You have to be logged in as an admin, and I'm the only admin. So, but important thing that we added into the app just today is the ability to import the Wikipedia page of the card of that person in question. And so you will see that the entire Wikipedia page of Donald Trump has been imported into here. Also, I have, and it is big. It's a big one. And also it imports all of the external links from Wikipedia right into here so that you have those as well. And it just captures it, sucks it up into here. And that was a very important enhancement to our little app. Now, again, I'm not suggesting that everything on Wikipedia is true. So before you come at me with that, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, look, we're not even looking for crimes here. We're looking for mutual associations. So we're just trying to help this matrix get caught up. So there you go. There's one. Donald Trump, 1 degree to both Tim Ballard and Jeffrey Epstein. That we always knew. And frankly, like I said, anybody can be within 2 degrees of just about anybody on this planet. Supposedly, we're all within 6 degrees of each other, hence the famous game, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. You know the one. The other one that we already knew, let's see, how are we doing this? Anyways, we always knew that was one, okay? The other one that was interesting that Tim Ballard himself clued us into is Alan Dershowitz. You know Alan Dershowitz. He was once O.J. Simpson's lawyer. He was once Donald Trump's lawyer. He has been the lawyer of many people, including Jeffrey Epstein. If I click on Alan Dershowitz, you'll see the card that comes up and says Alan Dershowitz is connected to Tim Ballard, 1 degree to Tim Ballard. That's according to Tim Ballard. We're taking him at his words for it. So 1 degree to Tim Ballard. Alan Dershowitz had a client, which is Jeffrey Epstein, 1 degree to Jeffrey Epstein. Once again, these are our usual suspects so far. Some other people, though, that have come out of this in really the last 48 hours. Excuse me. Everybody hear me okay? I'm not sure that I'm getting my audio. Hold on. Let me make sure my audio is good. Yeah. Do people hear me still? And do you hear me better? Just go ahead and weigh in there for me. Before you were listening to the microphone on my laptop. Now you're listening to the microphone on my headphones. So let me know. Do you hear me? And is it better? All right. Some other associations that we've talked about in the past couple of weeks are Eduardo Verostegui, who is the producer, the financier, the main money man. Okay, thank you. The main money man to the film Sound of Freedom. He has appeared and spoken alongside Tim Ballard at multiple conferences, including multiple conferences and screenings of Sound of Freedom at Turning Point Action, which was Charlie Kirk's political arm of the Turning Point USA. Yes, Turning Point USA is one organization, and it is not a political organization. It has a different organization that is Political Action, and they have spoken together. They are 1 degree, very solidly 1 degree within 1 degree of each other. Eduardo Verostegui is also a surrogate for and advisor to Donald Trump. He sat on advisory boards with Donald Trump, and he is also was a surrogate for Donald Trump in his 2024 campaign. And who is a former associate of Jeffrey Epstein, 2 degrees to Jeffrey Epstein. Congratulations, Eduardo Verostegui. He also plays Paul Hutchinson's character in Sound of Freedom because for some reason they didn't want to tell the story of Paul Hutchinson in the film. In any event, we went over Eduardo Verostegui before, but since last week. Was it last week or the week before? The week before, and I talked about Eduardo Verostegui. Come to find out that Eduardo Verostegui is actually also either a producer or an actor in multiple films connected with Angel Studios. Either he's in the film, or he's a producer of the film, or the filmmakers had cast him in a previous movie. And so rather than I could go over all those associations if that's of interest to you, but they're also just all inside the matrix if you care to look. But in the last 48 hours or so, we've drawn some interesting connections in here. One of the more disturbing ones that keeps coming up is Stephen Breyer. This has actually been in here for a while. I've tried to massage the association logic to try and work Stephen Breyer out so many times because I find it so unbelievable. But look, here it is. Okay. Stephen Breyer was co-faculty at Harvard with Alan Dershowitz, who is connected to Tim Ballard, 2 degrees to Tim Ballard. Well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. The Stephen Breyer taught at Harvard Law with Alan Dershowitz, also teaching at Harvard Law, co-faculty at Harvard Law. Pretty difficult for multiple years. Pretty difficult to imagine that they didn't know each other. If you don't know, Alan Dershowitz, Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer, had taught until I think 2023 or 2024, had taught law at Harvard for like I want to say 60 years or something. It was multiple decades. It was since the 60s. He's taught there the whole time. So he practices law, teaches at Harvard Law, and tons of people have worked alongside him. Well, unfortunately, that puts all those people within two degrees of both Jeffrey Epstein and Tim Ballard. But not all of those are interesting. This one's interesting. Also, Stephen Breyer nominated to SCOTUS by Bill Clinton, who has flight logs along with Jeffrey Epstein. Pretty well understood to be dirty in the Epstein files. 2 degrees to Jeffrey Epstein. So Stephen Breyer, probably innocent person, but you have a Supreme Court justice who is very solidly well within the radius of both Tim Ballard and Jeffrey Epstein. You also have, of course, Bill Clinton, 2 degrees to Tim Ballard because he's special counsel on impeachment, Alan Dershowitz. Cancel that. That's a mistake. I thought I told it to put that association on Ken Starr, and it put it on Alan Dershowitz. I must have made a mistake. Sorry about that. Never mind. Of course, everybody knows Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Wow, it really is doing great at selecting the wrong damn person when I click on it. I gotta update some of the interface logic. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, alleged assailants of Virginia Giuffre, along with Alan Dershowitz, who is connected to Tim Ballard. If you don't know, Virginia Giuffre, in her book Nobody's Girl, claims that she was trafficked both to Alan Dershowitz and to former Prince Andrew. He's also a close associate to Jeffrey Epstein, 1 degree to Jeffrey Epstein. Very close association, by the way. And now he is arrested for it because in the UK, because some countries take this shit seriously. Let's see some other, but perhaps one of the most significant mutual connections, and we're getting down to it, to today's update, is going to be Steve Bannon. If you don't know Steve Bannon is a person that would not be missed if he fell into a dark hole forever. Steve Bannon is the son of a bitch. You don't believe me? You can just open up the Epstein files, put in Steve Bannon, and holy shit. This man is trash. He is a human trash fire. I don't say that lightly about just about anybody. But as I say, the man could fall into a dark hole and disappear forever, and the human species would only be made better. I wish no harm upon him or anybody else. In any event, Steve Bannon is connected to Donald Trump, who is connected to Tim Ballard, 2 degrees to Tim Ballard. Steve Bannon is connected to Jeffrey Epstein, 1 degree to Jeffrey Epstein. And then there's a little bit of a description here. The summary here is written by me back in the days before I could do this cool Wikipedia import thing. But now we also have the ability to import somebody's Wikipedia page. Soon I'm going to do the same thing with open secrets and be able to include donations and financial connections between organizations and people, which will be good. And also IMDb, because the more I dive into this, the more we are going to find that there's some old school Hollywood stories built into these files, both in the case of Jeffrey Epstein and Tim Ballard, and some very interesting mutual connections are coming out of that. We're actually going to talk about some of those today. Well, at least a couple of those today. Well, let's talk about one that I recently already had mentioned, and that's this boy right here, Jesus Christ. Is who the man has played in The Passion of the Christ by one Millard Gibson. And he is connected to Tim Ballard. He plays Tim Ballard in the movie Sound of Freedom, and the two of them have appeared in Tim's podcast together in multiple instances. They are quite buddy-buddy. Jim Caviezel was also an interviewee on Steve Bannon's show, and he is connected to Jeffrey Epstein. So that puts him 2 degrees to Jeffrey Epstein. Congratulations. Welcome, Tim Ballard / Jesus Christ. You are in the Epstein files. You are in the Epstein Ballard matrix. Those of you who didn't catch my video I posted a little while ago, there's this. You'll be able to see a link here to a video that prompted me to decide, we're going to go ahead and up his status in the matrix. It is an interview that this was some QAnon weirdos on Twitter, which I will always call Twitter, posted clips a while ago in 2024, I want to say, of well, here, I'll click on it and I'll be sure. It's either 2023 or 2024 of Jim Caviezel being interviewed by Steve Bannon on his show, on his program War Room. And let's see, what's the date? This is June 21st, 2023. Oh, look at that. I am seeing for the first time this is actually before even the release of Sound of Freedom. Interesting. In which he starts talking about the film Steve Bannon. Bannon's Caviezel's best bud for 20 years. Starry, give me the reference on that. Hey, Jesse, nice to see you. You guys, when you contact me, tell me what your real names are. If I know you by your real names, I don't know. I don't know who everybody is, and that I don't know how many of you ran up to me at Thrive Say George and said, "Hey, it's me," and I'm like, "Oh, hey, you," and then it was like, "I'm so and so on YouTube." Oh, okay, thank you for letting me know. Very cool. Welcome. So they start talking about Sound of Freedom and the sex island in Sound of Freedom, which is only a sex island. And we've gone over this in past episodes with my previous series, Underground, about that. That's only a sex island, the one off the coast of Cartagena that you'll see in the film Sound of Freedom, also in the film Abolitionist, which is a terrible film that everybody can watch when they want to, because Tim Ballard made it one. Nobody actually had sex on the island, well, at least not that anybody knows or that has been reported so far. And the only reason any persons, minor or adults, were brought to the island that day is because Tim Ballard paid for it with his donors' money, is the best we know, the best we can see from all the evidence presented. I may be wrong, and if I am, I want to be told that I am wrong so that I can update my information, because of all things in life, I love to be right. I'd like to be rich, but mostly I just love to be right. If I had to choose between rich and right, I would choose right. So toxic. In any event, yeah, so we have these connections. So Jesus and Steve Bannon and Tim Ballard and Jeffrey Epstein swimming in the same soup does not mean that Jim Caviezel is guilty of any crimes. Not insinuating any such thing. I get accused of this every time this gets circulated. In any event, some other interesting associations. We have Elon Musk. Don't even have time to go over this. Interesting connections. Oh, I wanted to show you this before you get on to some more of these associations. I want to show you my cool vibe code engineering. I have added into this. Oh, you guys are gonna love this, right? After I added that Wikipedia import feature, I put in a suggest button. I click on the suggest button when logged in. You're going to see the button too, but it shouldn't let you in there. Oh, it says I've gone through all the connections. No, bullshit. It must need a refresh. Gonna have to go over that again. In any event, I did not go through all those suggestions. I barely got. I barely got into it. It must be clearing the queue, and it must have to reset the queue. Well, I got my next vibe coding prompt. All right. In any event, what it does is it takes all of the information on all the nodes, including all the imported Wikipedia scans and all of my hand typed nodes, and looks for names of people or organizations already in the matrix. And then it comes up with a list of connections saying, is this a connection? 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 So that I can find connections that I hadn't made before, maybe because I haven't done enough research. It beats the hell out of Googling everybody with everybody. Does Janet Russin know Juan Alessi? Does Julianne Blake have anything to do with Todd Reynolds? Does Woody Allen have anything to do with Matt Cooper? You know, just tell me who they do have something to do with. So then, just like if it's in there, then let's just update it. Boom, 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 boom. And in the process of doing, I want to say like at least 100 of these just this afternoon. A lot more associations cropped up in our crimson circle, people who are within 2 degrees of Jeffrey Epstein and Tim Ballard. One of the more interesting ones is Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is connected to Sound of Freedom, who is connected to Tim Ballard. Now, right now, I have told it in the past to not count non person nodes as a connection. But Charlie Kirk did host multiple screenings of Sound of Freedom for Tim Ballard and Eduardo Verostegui. I'm going to let this one stand for now. I am going to fix the logic so it's not doing this with every non-person node, because because you're connected to a film doesn't mean that you're within 2 degrees of a person. So, but trust me, this is going to come out. I'm going to find the association of how it is that Charlie Kirk is associated, including that Charlie Kirk has had Jim Caviezel, for example, on his program. He's had. I was just reading somebody else today who he had on. I think he might have had Tim Ballard on his program. In any event, he is 1 degree connected to multiple people involved in Sound of Freedom. So even while this logic has to be updated, it's going to come out again. And then, of course, Charlie Kirk is connected to Donald Trump, did a lot of activism, a lot of campaigning for Donald Trump, including hosting Donald Trump and basically all the majority of his big speakers at multiple Turning Point ACT or ActCon events, including West Palm Beach, and even at Donald Trump's golf course in New Jersey, which is how we even got going down this rabbit hole. But in any event, lots of interesting associations that have come out in this. Oh yeah, it was Jim Caviezel. I added this one just today. Jim Caviezel was interviewed by Kirk about QAnon, and basically Charlie Kirk grilled him on QAnon theories. So I'm just checking to make sure with as many times as I said the Q words that I didn't get my whole live taken down. Okay, good. Some other interesting associations. Of course, we knew Larry Summers. If you don't know, Larry Summers was president of Harvard University when multiple people who worked there were directly connected to it, including Elena Kagan. I don't know why that's not in there. This is how he had associations. Elena Kagan taught at Harvard. I think she actually was president. Well, I'll just put it as a connection. She was like president of Harvard Law, I think. Oh, I'm not logged in. I'll have to add old Elena Kagan later. But it's interesting because Elena Kagan is, she's in the Epstein files, believe it or not, multiple locations. And in some of those cases, in at least one of those cases, her name is the only answer, is the only words in an email from Kathy Rumler, who you may have heard of recently, resigned from her job at Goldman Sachs over her Epstein Files Association. That same day that she did that, I found her quite by accident because I was looking up Elena Kagan because I kept seeing Elena Kagan, Elena Kagan, Elena Kagan. I'm like, you're talking about I'm sorry, you're talking about the associate justice nominated by Barack Obama? Are you kidding me right now? And I found this email between Jeffrey Epstein and Kathy Rumler, who is Jewish, I believe, talking about her coming over for dinner during Yom Kippur, I believe, and then told her, Woody and Sun Yi, that's Woody Allen and his daughter wife, are going to come over for dinner for Yom Kippur and have what I can only imagine is the most perverted high holy days in history, with the exception of a very small notable handful, and basically leaves it open ended to see who else she might want to invite also to this dinner. And the only words she responded with were Elena Kagan. if you don't know, Kathy Rumler at that time was White House legal counsel for Barack Obama. So it's all disgusting. It's all heartbreaking and disgusting. In any event, this will make you all feel really dirty, folks. You guys wanted to be around for a true crime podcast. Just get in with it. Just sit in the filth with me here. It's just disgusting. Sean Reyes, you could have called that one. This is former Utah Attorney General. He's directly connected to Tim Ballard. Oh God, is he directly connected to Tim Ballard? Basically, Sean Reyes was one of the people who tried to convince Tim Ballard to run for Mitt Romney's Senate seat. He claims, Tim Ballard has claimed multiple times, and likely is telling the truth for a change, that President Trump also tried to get him to run for Mitt Romney's Senate seat. Unfortunately for him, before he ever got any traction on that, first of all, it turns out he's an asshole. Tim Ballard is. And also, like several women who worked for him or with him at Operation Underground Railroad accused him of trafficking them, basically. So, but and then Sean Reyes, if you don't know, look up Sean Reyes, Tim Ballard, and you're going to see all of these associations of all the ways that, while acting as the Attorney General of the state of Utah, Sean Reyes plotted revenge schemes for Tim Ballard. He basically acted as a defense attorney almost for Tim Ballard, and was personally on that island when these young people supposedly were trafficked to some Americans. And the Americans they were trafficked to, we now know, were Tim Ballard and Sean Reyes and Paul Hutchinson. It turns out, dirty as he is, may be one of the cleaner people involved in this whole thing, believe it or not. So in any event, he is not the Attorney General anymore. Not that yeah. Anyways, at the time, by the way, I believe it was at the time when that operation was conducted in Colombia. Sean Reyes, it was either then or later during the investigation. Sean Reyes was also a bishop in the Mormon Church, for whatever that's worth to you. Also, Sean Reyes was a delegate for Donald Trump, who's former associate of Jeffrey Epstein, 2 degrees to Jeffrey Epstein. Let's see here. Okay, so, but among all of these, Jim Caviezel. I just want to I want to preface this by saying I do not think that there is an instant. I don't buy for one moment, off the top of my head, just in my feeling from my wobbles. Though I do not like Jim Caviezel, generally speaking, I did like him in a few roles. I liked him in The Count of Monte Cristo. Okay, I did. In fact, I liked him in The Passion of the Christ, but I was Mormon when that came out. In any event, and I was one of the few Mormons who went and saw it because it was rated R. I did think it was good. Hell, I liked him in Sound of Freedom. I think he's a good actor. But I hear the man himself talk, and I'm like, oh boy, you dove off the deep end, buddy. You are not with us. But okay, I don't generally like him, and yet I don't know of any reason to assume that Jim Caviezel is guilty of anything that went down on Little St. James Island. That being said, follow the evidence. Let's see where it goes. But an interesting association that came up while I was with Jim Caviezel and several other connections that came up today was his co-star, one of his co-stars in Sound of Freedom. Now, you'd think I was talking about Eduardo Verástegui, guy who came up with the money, the guy who has done frequent interviews with Breitbart News, which was, run by Steve Bannon, and has done QAnon conferences and all these other these conferences with Charlie Kirk's organization promoting Sound of Freedom, the guy who worked hard to get Disney to release Sound of Freedom when it acquired it as one of the assets listed under Fox, when Fox Faith and Fox 20th Century Fox were purchased and merged into Disney. And so, this is a guy who has worked his butt off to tell this story. He even tells it basically like nobody was ever going to make this book or the story of Tim Ballard into a movie, he personally fought for it tooth and nail, and I actually believe it. Also, if you didn't know, we went over this last week, but to catch everybody up, Eduardo Verástegui also in 2024 ran for president of Mexico and lost badly to Claudia Scheinbaum, who I have to say I'm getting more and more impressed with. Um, Claudia Scheinbaum, can you come over to America? We got a job for you. But he also one of the co-stars in of Jim Caviezel. But the other co-star is the one I want to tell you about, and that's Mira Sorvino. Again, I don't think Mira Sorvino is guilty of any crimes here. I'm just trying to associate who is putting all these people in the room. What rooms are they meeting in? And what are the interesting things that are coming out of them? Mira Sorvino is connected to Catherine Ballard. She played Catherine Ballard in a movie, and she has met Catherine Ballard. I actually have footage of the moment that they claim to have met. It wasn't very interesting. It was on the red carpet. Yeah. So they took a picture together and they did an interview together, Catherine Ballard. And apparently, Mira Sorvino did interviews with family and with people involved in the story. She wanted to get to know her character in it. So Catherine Ballard, who is connected to Tim Ballard, to say the least, she's his wife, 2 degrees to Tim Ballard. Actually, Mira Sorvino has said that she has met Tim Ballard. But I'm going to tell you why I'm a little bit suspicious about that. Mira Sorvino, and she also co-stars and is directed by Woody Allen in the movie Mighty Aphrodite, 1995. And Woody Allen is a close friend, as you know, and frequent associate of Jeffrey Epstein. That's 2 degrees to Jeffrey Epstein. Welcome, Mira Sorvino, to mutual contacts between Tim Ballard and Jeffrey Epstein. That's really sad. That's really sad because I don't know if you know this, but Mira Sorvino, of course, is one of the many women who has accused Harvey Weinstein of assault. And she is also one of the biggest advocates to go out there and fight on behalf of the multiple women who were assaulted by Harvey Weinstein and to call him out publicly saying this man assaulted. I'm not using the word she used, because I have to be a little more careful. That this man assaulted many women that I love, many people that I love, she said. And she has fought very hard on behalf of women who have been trafficked and women who have been assaulted, which is why it's shocking to me that you don't really, so far don't see a whole lot of people calling out Mira Sorvino since it's been exposed that Tim Ballard used women very inappropriately. And I can't emphasize enough the word used. He objectified women. He treated women like they were means to an end. He was, if any of the allegations against him in the multiple lawsuits are true, and again, and there's even um, uh, criminal allegations that have yet to see the light of day in a courtroom or to see charges that, as far as I know, that just tell you everything you need to know about Utah's legal system. And, if any of these things are true, and if anybody is going to believe, as Mira Sorvino tends to do, that you should believe women, it's shocking that she hasn't made us any statement about her supposed associate and friend in anti-trafficking, Tim Ballard, allegedly having abused these women who worked for him. I mean, Celeste Boris, at the least, she should be. These women should be coming out to support other women. You would think. I would think. I don't know. I would think so. Nonetheless, I don't know Mira Sorvino. I don't know why she hasn't. Maybe she has, and I just haven't found it. I would love somebody to let me know. Do you know anything about this? I haven't seen anything so far, but it's curious because I hadn't realized, and I'm a pretty big Hollywood guy, that Mira Sorvino had worked with Woody Allen. And one of the interesting cases on this, um, How should I do this? I'm gonna leave this. I'm gonna leave the screen that you're looking at up here. No, I should really do this. Okay, I'm going to take this screen down and I'm going to end that screen. I'm going to stop that screen. I'm going to show you another screen here because we're going to go over to the Epstein files. Okay, so you're looking at right here. This is EFTA 02068026. This is an Epstein file. And this particular Epstein file is from Jeffrey Epstein, old Jeffy Jeff. No, it's to Jeffy Jeff from somebody else. And we don't know. It does look though that if you look really closely, you can see that they haven't redacted. This is one of the ones they haven't redacted very well. You see this right here. There's something there. I want to say this is a name that ends in Y. And if you look at it really carefully, you'll see the subject under here says Peggy Segal. That could be Peggy Segal underneath there, this is, again, you've heard about the redactions in the Epstein files. Everybody see this okay? I'm just want to make sure. If you look at, if you look down at this email, okay, so it says that might be Peggy Segal. The subject is Peggy Segal, and you look down at the end of the email, it's signed Peggy. So, good chance that Peggy that Peggy Segal wrote this email to Jeffrey Epstein with the subject Peggy Segal. Peggy Segal is an assistant to Leon Black, one of the wealthy, powerful people in Jeffrey Epstein's orbit, shall we say. And this is the email below from Peggy regarding you will be in New York. I emailed Jackie, Peggy's assistant, today as well, asking if there are any events going on. Yes, I am around. Jackie has my schedule. Please tell Jeffrey that Harvey Weinstein paid me the $90,000 he owed me for a year. Peggy. Peggy's assistant, Peggy's one of Peggy's persons apparently sent an email on behalf of Peggy to make it clear that Harvey Weinstein is a friend of theirs. He's a friend of ours, even though Harvey Weinstein isn't directly named in the Epstein files, really, except for a few news articles that come up in emails and like automatic emails that Jeffrey Epstein receives. We don't see a lot of communication. We don't see any communication that I found directly between Harvey Weinstein and old Jeffy, at least not before they were in prison. Anyway, at least not before Jeffy was in prison. So, but it's curious that here we have a connection between Jeffrey Epstein and the man that allegedly assaulted Mira Sorvino. Now, and she has her whole life changed. That's when she started to get into she's always, of course, against trafficking, but this is where she really started to passionately fight against trafficking, and found herself on UN commissions fighting against trafficking. And she started to go down the rabbit hole on some of these theories about how many people are being trafficked and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go deep into what she says that's right or wrong. I don't know what's right or wrong. I can just tell you she goes down the rabbit hole, and she does seem to buy a lot of the same things that Jim Caviezel buys into. And that makes sense because if you look up Jim Caviezel and Mira Sorvino, it turns out the pair of them have actually done multiple films together. And she also has done other films besides Sound of Freedom about trafficking. She is passionate about anti-trafficking. Good for her. She doesn't appear to be directly connected, that I can tell, with Operation Underground Railroad, apart from having played Catherine Ballard in Sound of Freedom. Anyways, as I said before, you look up Harvey Weinstein. What you mainly get here is a bunch of emails um, in which people are getting either Jeffrey Epstein himself or somebody else are getting news reports about Weinstein. I haven't found a lot in here about actual. As a matter of fact, so far I have not found any actual direct communication between Weinstein and and Epstein, but could be. But this is the closest that I found is this, Peggy or somebody representing Peggy telling him about this mutual association. Yeah. See, here we go. So now that's interesting because Mira Sorvino does come up in the Epstein files. None of it very, none of it damning to her. Okay. For example, this is from dataset 11. Who knows how the hell this came about, but somehow an email here sent to somebody. This could be like an FBI agent, this could be Epstein, could be somebody. Anyways, from Film Report. So we don't know who this was sent to or why it's this. But if you do um, a search for Mira Sorvino, it's going to come down here to The Final Cut. That's a film starring Robin Williams. You may remember it's a science fiction film in which she co starred with Jim Caviezel. That's where I said, okay, these two are close. These two have worked together. And sure enough, you look into their history, and Mira Sorvino and Jim Caviezel, they've worked together. And I mean, this is dating back to 2004 for hell's sake. I mean, they're friends going back a ways, and co-stars. So that makes total sense. She's not elsewhere inside this particular Epstein file, and frankly, the rest of the references are pretty much the same, with the exception of a couple of these I want to point out. This one is curious. The last one of these four files in which Mira Sorvino comes up is from Jeffrey E. It's from old Jeffy Boy. And it starts out, if you have ever experienced sexual assault or harassment, you know that one of the cruelest things about these acts is the way that they entangle and attempt to contaminate all of the best things about you. If you're sweet and friendly, you'll think that it's your fault for accommodating the situation. If you're tough, well, you might as well decide that it's no big deal. If you're a gentle person, then he knew you were weak. If you're talented, he thought of you as an equal. If you're ambitious, you wanted it. If you're savvy, you knew it was coming. If you're affectionate, you seemed like you were asking for it all along. If you make dirty jokes or have a good time at parties, then why get moralistic? If you're smart, there's got to be some way to rationalize this. Okay, so first of all, and this is sent to a person named Melanie Spinella. Oh, I'm sorry. I got that wrong. Melanie Spinella is the person who's an assistant. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm trying to keep updated with all my information. I got all my notes kind of all in my head. Melanie Spinella is the person who is an assistant to Leon Black. Let me just validate that. Yeah, his executive assistant. Peggy, like I said, you guys, sometimes I'm doing all this, I'm learning all this all at the same time. Peggy Segal is a publicist. I had gotten that backwards in my brain. Yep. Got to get into that. That Peggy Segal thing is like wild. Um, but apparently knows. Oh, look at this! I'm seeing now that apparently she's the reason why Timothy Chalamet is in the Epstein files. Okay, well, I'm going to have to get into Peggy Segal here in a bit. But in any event, that's how. In any event, so Melanie Spinella, who's an executive assistant to Leon Black, is getting this write up of what looks very much like some kind of public relations piece. And if you know Jeffrey Epstein's writing, you know that this is not Jeffrey Epstein's writing. The man was not very good. He would frequently give people advice on how to handle public relations. And if you read the things that he says, like for example, we went over recently a text message um, volley. Did we go over this? Anyways, a volley of text messages with Steve Bannon, where he gave Steve Bannon a bunch of advice on here's how you spin this, and once again, I think it was something else that had to do with sexual assault. He's frequently giving people advice on how to spin sexual assault. That's how Lawrence Krauss ends up, and part of how Lawrence Krauss ends up being the person who emails him more than just about anybody out there. Gross, Lawrence. What the fuck, dude? You really let us down, buddy. In any event, so either this was written by somebody else, either it's from this. He puts the link in here to a New York Times article. Either it's related to this, or he had somebody else write this. In any event, but it's interesting what's here. Okay, that he's sending this to Leon Black's executive assistant is this section here. This paragraph. In Ronan Farrow's account of Weinstein's alleged decades-long pattern of cold, angry, vicious, sexually predatory behavior, this side of sexual victimization is particularly palpable in the actress Asia Argento's story. Argento alleges that in 1997 she was told she was attending a Miramax party but was brought to a hotel room that was empty except for Weinstein. He complimented her work and then came out of the bathroom wearing just a robe, carrying lotion. When she reluctantly agreed to give him a massage, he pulled up her skirt and forcibly performed oral sex on her as she pleaded with him to stop. It was a nightmare, she told Farrow. Eventually, she says she stopped protesting and feigned pleasure to make the encounter end faster. During the event and after, she says she felt guilty for not physically fighting off his big naked body. Later on, she yielded to his pursuit and had consensual sex with him on multiple occasions. So what's interesting here in this is, once again, you have Mira Sorvino's assailant, Harvey Weinstein, alleged, if we're believing women, and I choose to, you have this account being recounted by Ronan Farrow, who is the guy who is Woody Allen's son and the one who went to bat for his sister in her accusing their father, Woody Allen, of abuse from when she was a child. And Jeffrey Epstein, who is a close friend of both Sun Yi Previn and Woody Allen, is sending this article about Harvey Weinstein, apparently somehow a mutual association of his, to this Melanie Spinella on behalf of Leon Black. And all of this, it's like an ocean of predators swimming around Mira Sorvino, who, again, I can't stress this enough, as far as I can tell, is an innocent victim in this whole story. The other interesting Epstein file involving Mira Sorvino is this one here. This is the penultimate, and you'll see that it is a what do you call it? A court pleading in United States District Court, Southern District of New York. Gravier Productions, which is Woody Allen's production company, and Woody Allen are the plaintiffs suing Amazon Content Services, LLC, and Amazon Studios, LLC. And the introduction of this lawsuit is about how Amazon cheated Woody Allen out of money he's owed because they promised to basically back his next 4 motion pictures, and then bailed when his son, Ronan, came forward with allegations against Harvey Weinstein, and then followed that up immediately, and then at the same time was coming out with a story about how Woody, assaulted Ronan's sister, and how the two of them, have had to keep secret about this, or how she has had to keep secret about it. And when those things came to light, all of a sudden, can you believe it? Amazon backed out of their promise to back his pictures, to distribute his films. And so and once again, you have this person alleged to have done some pretty nasty, dirty things on Epstein's Island, which is sadly enough, formerly one of my favorite directors, Woody Allen. I really have enjoyed his pictures in the past, and this is it's heartbreaking. I haven't even looked up Mira Sorvino. I couldn't even get that far, but apparently she's in here. Okay. These include, so this is footnote number 6. Where is number 6? Number 6 is here. Oh, yeah. So Allen's statement came out just as Amazon and Allen were preparing to promote Allen's film Wonder Wheel, effectively sabotaging those efforts. The response from the film industry was swift and damning. Scores of actors and actresses expressed profound regret for having worked with Allen in the past, and many declared publicly that they would never work with him in the future. And apparently, Mira Sorvino is one of those. Among the others that are included were Judd Apatow, Haley Atwell, Kate Blanchett, Rachel Brosnahan, Michael Caine, Timothy Chalamet. Oh, that's how Tim. Okay, yeah, okay. I had found the Timothy Chalamet reference, and I hadn't even realized it. Colin Firth, Greta Gerwig, Kathy Griffin, Rebecca Hall, David Krumholtz, Griffin Newman, Rosie O'Donnell, Elliot Page, Freda Pinto, Natalie Portman, Peter Sarsgaard, and Mira Sorvino. So once again, another good example of how you can end up on the Epstein Ballard matrix and be a totally innocent person, believe it or not. Some other associations that with the Epstein files. Well, we've got Epstein files pulled up that I thought I would mention. Oh, yeah. No, I think that was the only thing. That was the only thing actually involving the files that I was going to bring up today. So we're going to go ahead and close that one. Boom, close out of this. Let's go ahead and load up our Epstein Ballard matrix. Share the screen. So I told you that to tell you this. So who is the person that introduced Tim Ballard to Alan Dershowitz? I have yet to find any reference apart from Tim Ballard saying in a podcast that was featured on Timmy Did What, Cara Burrell's podcast with Ryan Fisher, how Tim Ballard knows Alan Dershowitz. But basically, if you don't know, let me refresh. Tim Ballard told a pro-Israel podcast, which he's been going on multiple podcasts in the last couple of years, defending Israel. I don't really see that as needing to be a part of this whole story, except that, of course, Jeffrey Epstein is alleged by some to have been a Mossad agent at some point. He does insinuate, it seems to me, in multiple instances where I've been going through his files, that he has Mossad training. Didn't mind people thinking that he was a Mossad agent. And it does make sense given his association with Ehud Barak. If you don't know, where are you, old Ehud? Boop, boop. Here we go. Ehud Barak, who was the former prime minister and I believe foreign minister of Israel, and one of the main political opponents of Likud and the Likud party and its leader Benjamin Netanyahu. Although they seem to be pretty buddy now. As a matter of fact, they seem, even as rivals, to have been working together. In addition to the fact that, as I showed last time, there are conversations between Jeffrey Epstein and Ehud Barak, where Jeffrey Epstein is in Paris and Ehud, or bouncing back and forth between New York and Paris. And I believe New York, Paris, and Florida. And while Ehud Barak was in Moscow, allegedly meeting with Vladimir Putin. And if you don't know, Ehud Barak and his associates have been working hard to try and convince uh, um, Vladimir Putin to try and motivate 1 million Jewish descended Russians to move to Israel in order to who knows what. The implication seems to be in order to help genetically or socially engineer what the future of Jewish ethnicity is. I don't know, but that's very well within Jeffrey Epstein's mindset. He's always talking to people about genetics. He's always trying to defend genetics and genetic links and the right of ethnic groups to shape their future as being essentially part of his identity, all of our identities as human beings, and particularly his determining the future of Jews. And it's gross. It's gross. It keeps coming up again and again. What I had not realized, because I unfortunately have not had the time yet to read Nobody's Girl, and did not realize this while I was bringing up all of these other allegations, that apparently in her book, Virginia Giuffre accuses Ehud Barak of being one of the men that she was trafficked to as well. So she claims to have been trafficked to Donald Trump, to Alan Dershowitz, and also to Ehud Barak, all of whom are men directly connected to Jeffrey Epstein. I won't be surprised to find that old Ehud Barak may become one of our mutual connections, given all of Tim Ballard's work in the Middle East. And this is the part where we're still figuring out more of these associations. But I'll tell you about those here in a bit if we have time. Because I definitely don't want to run over our 2-hour mark here, and we're already at an hour. The one person that was very curious to me that seems to keep coming up. Where are you? Everybody sees my screen, okay? Yep, okay, good. Is old. Boom, boom. Where are you? Looking through my scarlet letters, my scarlet nodes. Where are you? Guys, look at my network. Got this big ass network. Let's zoom brighter. Okay. Well, I won't keep you in suspense. Person we're looking for is Glenn Beck. Now, again, as I've said before, you're right there. He's right bloody there. Okay. Anyway, Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck is connected to Tim Ballard 1 degree. We know that Glenn Beck gave Tim Ballard $1 million to start Operation Underground Railroad. He also later named him the head of Nazarene Fund. The Nazarene Fund is apparently how Tim Ballard started to build connections in the Middle East, because it was originally an organization meant to help where contributors to Glenn Beck's program donated money to this LLC, kind of hastily thrown together, to go and assist ethno-religious groups of Christians who are not Christians as most Christians would think of Christians, but that doesn't matter. That's not how they sell it to them to get their money. You have a lot of Christian supporters, including a lot of Mormon supporters, many of whom end up being Operation Underground Railroad's financiers, giving money to help Christian people in the Middle East to escape Syria during the oppression of the Assad regime, which was a genuine concern. Bashar al-Assad was a son of a bitch, and he really was trying to eradicate Christians, these groups of Christians, and ISIS was trying to do the same. And now that ISIS has been not completely disappeared, they're still there, but beaten back to a large extent. And also now that the Assad regime has fallen, Syria has more or less fallen into chaos. In the midst of that, now Tim Ballard is over there working with the Druze, who are a Christian group of ethno-religious group in Syria and Israel, and that's interesting. Okay, we'll get into that here in a minute. But okay, so Glenn Beck is directly connected to Tim Ballard and multiple fronts. Now, it wasn't until now, mind you, that was in 2013 that they launched Operation Underground Railroad. It wasn't until after all these women came out with their allegations against Tim Ballard and accused him of assaulting them and or trafficking them, and claimed, as Celeste Boris, for example, said, they never rescued anybody. Also, Bree Ryder, same situation, that they never rescued any children, they never rescued anyone, and they just take credit for other people's work and then count it as their own. We've gone over that before. This is the allegations. These are the accusations that they have made. Uh, Now, after Glenn Beck learned that these women who are LDS mainly, Bree Ryder isn't LDS, but the other women involved in these, they're, as far as I'm aware, they're, to a woman, every single one of them Mormon. And Glenn Beck is a Mormon, and a Mormon who is, as far as I can tell, he's pretty innocent in this whole thing. And that hurts my soul a little bit to say, because I dislike Glenn Beck with the heat of 1,000 suns. But observing that he has been more or less consistently anti-Trump, not seeming to be terribly close to Steve Bannon. He seems to be one of these conservative people, independent thinkers, who has something like a spine buried deep down inside of him, and doesn't just cave to pressure. At least not often. I mean, he has come out in support, of people he dislikes, like Trump, reluctantly in the past. But he has made it pretty clear that like Mitt Romney, for example, that he doesn't find the moral behavior of some of these people involved in the MAGA movement. He finds them morally reprehensible. And so, in any event, I hadn't pegged the man as an Epstein person. Who knows? Maybe we'll learn differently. I looked it up, and it turns out that Glenn Beck is connected to Alan Dershowitz. From 2013 to 2023, he was actively supporting Tim Ballard. And during that time, I come to find out that prior to 2013, Glenn Beck had Alan Dershowitz on his program, if I'm not mistaken. I wish I had included the links to this. But he had Alan Dershowitz on his program. And this is after Alan Dershowitz has been an associate of an attorney for Jeffrey Epstein, helped Jeffrey Epstein negotiate his guilty plea and plead out of the trafficking charges that got him into trouble in the first place, right, in 2009. And so, and yet Glenn Beck frequently has had Dershowitz on his programs and on the Blaze, and he has also said of Dershowitz that he couldn't wait for Dershowitz to leave the Democratic Party, which he actually did, apparently, because he thought he was basically a soft conservative, and that may actually be an understatement of some of the things that Dershowitz turns out to have said and believed, especially when it comes to allegations made by women against attackers. But in any event, but I mean, he's the first to defend himself in high society among coastal elites, as they say, to say, okay, well, if I'm conservative, somebody has to explain to me why it is that I am passionately pro-choice. And it's like, okay, well, there are conservatives who are pro-choice. I mean, that wasn't hard. So, in any event, he has a right to a defense. Everybody does, but at the same time, we have this association. Now the question becomes: is this the missing link? That's my main thing here. Is Glenn Beck the one who introduced Tim Ballard to Alan Dershowitz? And if he is, how many other connections are we going to find between Glenn Beck and Alan Dershowitz? Am I going to find Glenn Beck on Epstein's island? So far, I haven't done. And believe me, I've looked. In the Epstein files, he's pretty clean. Glenn Beck. That doesn't mean that he's totally clean, and there are interesting associations we're finding all the time. So I am currently in the position where I am thinking there's cheese down this tunnel. Glenn Beck may be the way that Tim Ballard knows Alan Dershowitz, and maybe we'll find out. Including, I may just wind up calling Glenn Beck and seeing if I can get him on the damn phone. I think that would be fun. Any event, before I go on to some of the more interesting things I've been finding in Tim Ballard's radius that may lead to something. You'll see that there are a lot of notes here of disassociated people who are just interesting to me. You got Julie Rowe, you've got Chad Daybell, Tom Harrison, Lori Daybell, Jody Hildebrand. All these people are swimming in the same circles. How many of them are we going to find are also swimming in the circle of Jeffrey Epstein? I'm willing to bet it's going to be quite a bit. It's going to be quite a bit. But of all of these people, well, before we get into that, I did want to point out a few other interesting persons in case anybody else wants to help me out with some research. One of them is Marla Maples. Yes, that Marla Maples, who apparently looks alarmingly like E. Jean Carroll, a person who is not Donald Trump's type. Yes, that Marla Maples, whom he mistook, for whom he mistook E. Jean Carroll in a picture during the lawsuit where she sued him for defamation for saying that he didn't assault her, E. Jean Carroll, and they showed him a picture of him with a woman after he had said, "She's not my type." As everybody knows, men who assault women only assault their type. Their type. It's not my type. First of all, can someone get this man a PR person? Catherine Levitt, can you get this man a PR person? Get this man some media training. I guess he doesn't need it. That can't last forever, right? Okay. You never say that you have a type of person you like to sexually assault. That's not the generally good rule of thumb. Don't tell people you have a type of people who you want to no, that's not true. Go check yourself. I don't know about that, but I'll tell you this. The more associations, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the tone it's off the screen. The more people I find in the Epstein files is the more people I find connected to the current Israeli government. That doesn't mean that Jews are responsible for what he does. That the Jew responsible for the things that Epstein did is Jeffrey Epstein, and just happens to be a Jew. And there happen to be other people who happen to both be Jews and non-Jews alike. But the Israeli government, on the other hand, that's interesting. Marla Maples is connected to Donald Trump. She was married to him. Who is connected to Tim Ballard, 2 degrees to Tim Ballard. Marla Maples is connected to Donald Trump, who's former associate Jeffrey Epstein, 2 degrees to Jeffrey Epstein. It's not supposed to do this. I'm pointing this out so that when you see Marla Maples highlighted on here, it's not supposed to use the same person into. So the way that this is calculated, who ends up with a scarlet thread around them in this here, is if they are within 2 degrees of both Jeffrey Epstein and Tim Ballard, but not through the same person. And so I'm just trying to show you this to show you this is an app that's still in development. And I have explained this to this app many times, to my vibe coding software multiple times, and it just can't seem to get it to make sense to it. But we're going to figure this out. But it is interesting what I learned about Marla Maples when I saw that she came up as a close mutual connection between Steve Bannon or between Jeffrey Epstein and Tim Ballard is that apparently Marla Maples, you remember the allegation apparently is that okay, this is the way the story is told. Who knows how much of it is true? Donald Trump, as you know, was once married to a woman named Ivana Trump. He used to cheat on her. That's not a surprise. And then one of the people that he cheated on her with was a soap opera star by the name of Marla Maples. Then Marla Maples and he were married for a short time. He got her some security guard to keep her safe. Turns out she's knocking boots with the security guard, not being very careful about it, about keeping it from being exposed. First of all, hot. Second of all, oh, and Donald divorces her and tries very hard to keep that story quiet. It winds up, leaking to the tabloids anyway because tabloids. And Marla Maples goes on with her life, and is the mother of Tiffany. Is that right? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And in any event, turns out Marla is a public speaker. She is a motivational speaker now. Okay, cool. And also, interestingly enough, joined Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s Children Health Defense, which is his anti-vax network that sues people over vaccines. So interesting common association there. Not sure how closely related that it makes her closer to Tim Ballard or Jeffrey Epstein. But interestingly enough, the other interesting association, the reason why she may wind up with a scarlet thread after all, is this right here. This is something I've discovered recently. I'm gonna open up my nodes here as my nodes search, and I'm going to put in JER, Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast. So this is one of the shadier things that is giving me pay dirt on pay dirt on pay dirt on associations in these in this matrix. That's leading me to go, okay, maybe there's something to look at here. Oh wow, okay, and I keep getting more and more associations here. The Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast is an organization based out of the United States, not in Jerusalem, and not even in one of the Jerusalems in the United States, where prominent spiritual and political leaders and celebrities, donors, persons of high net worth will meet at a location on a particular day to pray for the well-being of the state of Israel and of Jerusalem particularly. And while they are praying, while they're getting set up to pray, well, somebody will get up and do some preaching. As a matter of fact, they'll get a few people to get up and do some preaching. In 2025, the same month, in January 2025, while Donald Trump was taking office in Washington, D.C., no comment from me on whether or not that's appropriate, that you make your own decisions. I don't tell people how to vote. I don't do that. While Donald Trump was being inaugurated in 2025, they had the Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast at Mar-a-Lago. And among those invited to speak was Marla Maples. Not awkward at all. Also, another one is a person named Sarah Bolos, wife of a very wealthy Lebanese American man. Don't have time to get into that. And several prominent Jewish leaders. Usually you have Jewish and Christian leaders here speaking. Marla Maples is an interesting exception because Marla Maples doesn't particularly identify as Christian, it seems to me. But she doesn't identify and hasn't converted to Judaism. She does live kosher, as far as I know. She doesn't, meaning that she eats kosher, etc. But as far as I'm aware, she still has not actually converted to Judaism. But she gets invited to speak at events all over the world, including an event in India I still have to look into on science and spirituality. In other words, she's meeting with a lot of people that are exactly the kind of people that Jeffrey Epstein liked to have around in his orbit. There may be some pay dirt here. We may actually find Marla Maples is dirty in the Epstein files and or connected to multiple people, including plausibly Tim Ballard. So Marla Maples, interesting association. I know about because of the Jerusalem prayer breakfast. I'm going to keep on this because there's more and more dirt on this. Another interesting connection you'll see is this guy. I believe his name is pronounced Nick Vujicic. He is you would recognize him if you saw him likely. He is an Australian evangelist who was born without limbs. He has no arms or legs. You've probably seen him. He goes around the world preaching, and he's quite unusual. It's not common to see a person who has no limbs, and he's a very passionate preacher about God. I watched his presentation at the prayer breakfast, and yuck. Allegedly, however, and I'm not sure why it's not showing up here, one of the people invited to speak at this Jerusalem prayer breakfast, and maybe this is wrong. I thought I had updated this. One of the people invited to speak at the 2025, I'm Googling it, Jerusalem prayer breakfast was Tim Ballard. I may be getting that wrong. I may be conflating a couple of things there. Let me get back to you on that. Again, all of this is brand new information. I'm still coming up with all the connections. But somehow he's connected in, I believe he's connected into this Jerusalem prayer breakfast. And that's not the only association. So I want to tell you about some more of those. Again, this is all cutting edge. We're still figuring out a lot of this. Boom, boom, boom. Yes. Okay. Here's another one. You guys can still see my screen. Yes. Okay. The other interesting one brings us back home to Utah. There's an interesting character that I was surprised to find, actually, though I keep seeing his name come up. I was surprised to find that the system highlighted him with a crimson thread, and that's Scott Pressler. I have had one message conversation with Scott Pressler himself. I sent him a Facebook message that got a heart response and then immediately was unhearted. I think he accidentally tapped it by mistake. I had sent this guy, Scott Pressler. If you don't know Scott Pressler, he's a character. He is openly gay and also a Republican activist is the guy who was paid $1 million by Elon Musk to flip Pennsylvania red in the previous election and flip crucial districts. Also, he has worked since, I want to say, for a while now. I have his whole Wikipedia in here now. He's worked for the Virginia Republican Party and several other state parties. And currently he is here in Utah with his Vote Early Action, which is a PAC. His PAC that he runs, going out there trying to get people to join, get people to sign on to a petition to try and overturn Prop 4 here in Utah, which is the ballot initiative that was overwhelmingly voted in by Utah voters to create an independent commission just making sure this is an emergency. This might be a little bit of an emergency. Just going to take this. They are trying. It was a proposition, a ballot initiative to get an independent commission that would make sure that there was no gerrymandering in our voting districts. And the state legislature voted, overrode that ballot initiative. So of course it went to court, and a judge decided. This is the way I understand it. This is the way I'm repeating it to you. A judge determined that the ballot initiative stands and the legislature's action is unconstitutional under Utah state constitution, and returned our voting districts back to our congressional districts back to what they were, to how they were determined by the independent commission. So Scott Pressler is now the guy who's here in Utah working with several independent individuals, several speakers. I don't know if he's paying them or if they're volunteers. Definitely, he's connecting them into the GOP establishment, because we keep seeing them come up again and again in other GOP events, including in Washington. I just saw today one of them turned up yesterday, or today, in the State of the Union in Washington, D.C. And among those people that he is bringing into, closer into the orbit of the GOP out here in Utah, is a young man named Kai Schwimmer. Anybody remember an episode we did a couple weeks ago called Kai Schwimmer Knows Nothing? In which I showed you some clips. There are now several more I could show you. I didn't capture the clips. I stopped following all of his actions when I couldn't take it anymore. Where he throws out German propaganda pretty regularly, and uses the same racial arguments that a certain prominent German leader once made in a somewhat famous book, and every speech of his life, pretty much. Yeah, he's basically an unabashed. No. And I happened to send Scott Pressler a Facebook message, got a response from him that was a heart, and then immediately unhearted. I saw this, I didn't see this, is what I got. Either, oops, I didn't mean to double tap on that, or I saw this, no, never mind, I didn't see it, wink, wink. Scott Pressler apparently saw it. Then I told him, I said, I'm happy to associate you and what you are doing here on Prop 4 with this young man. Here is a link to one of his recent live streams where he talks about race. And you're not going. And if you are the kind of person I think you are, and I think Scott Pressler, deep down in his root, in his soul, if he has one, if there is such a thing, in his heart, does not want to be associated with anti-Semitism, does not want to be associated with racism against people of color, does not want to be associated with white supremacy. And I hope he takes it seriously. So far, it's looking like no, he doesn't seem to care, because apparently he doesn't think it'll ever come home to him. Scott Pressler, I'm telling people, in case you forgot, or in case you didn't think I was serious, here I am telling people, you're employing white supremacists to push your narrative. And that's pretty gross, dude. That's pretty freaking gross. And I don't even have to bring up any of the controversies of Scott Pressler's past to point out why it is that it's disturbing how close he is coming up in association with Tim Ballard and Jeffrey Epstein. But okay, Scott Pressler is connected to Sound of Freedom screening at the 2023 ActCon in West Palm Beach, Florida, where he spoke with Tim Ballard and where they did a screening of the film with Eduardo Verástegui, 2 Degrees to Tim Ballard. Scott Pressler is also received donations, a significant donation from Elon Musk, who was named in the records of Jeffrey Epstein. 2 Degrees to Jeffrey Epstein. So welcome, Scott Pressler. We're going to be watching. We're going to be watching all of this. Okay. The other association that is interesting in this whole thing that I've been doing a lot of looking into, I think I've basically covered all of the, in some way or another, pretty much all of the scarlet or the Crimson Thread leads. Yeah, 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 pretty well. Yeah, I think pretty much we've covered it. Actually, all of them. Cool. Even old Stephen Breyer, who probably is innocent. Uh, who freaking knows? Oh, interestingly enough, I found out Mel Gibson is not only connected to Jim Caviezel, but apparently um, is a close friend to who did it to Steve Bannon. I think they discovered. I was reading today. In any event, um, the other one that I wanted to get into is one that perhaps people out there can help me out with. See if you can find anything. I'm trying to come up with as many connections as I can. This is one that also seems to have quite a bit of pay dirt. Oh, two things that seem to have given quite a bit of pay dirt. While we're looking at organizations here, I want to bring your attention. Which one should we start with? I want to bring your attention to an organization called Drew's Nexus. So this is Drew's Nexus. Drew's Nexus is connected to Tim Ballard. Tim Ballard is part of has appeared. I don't think he's on their website, but he has appeared in videos that they publish on Facebook where they point out that he's in the audience and they bring him forward. Also, he has made a video in which he talks to the children in this town in Syria of Druze people, Druze, Druze, ethno-religious Christians in the Middle East. And he has he's had meetings with the spiritual leader of the Druze, who is one, and I apologize, Your Holiness, or whoever you are referred in your official title, sir, Sheikh Moafak Tarif, who is the spiritual leader of the Druze. He's like the prophet of the Druze. And Tim Ballard has made videos with him talking about his association, talking about rescuing the people who are Druze in Syria from harm. I'm not going to go into the political connections on this, but if you're interested, I will say this much. It is interesting to note how Benjamin Netanyahu needs soldiers, and Israel is a little country. A large percentage, nowhere, I don't think necessarily even a majority, but maybe a majority. A large percentage are Jewish. And as you can imagine, most people in his position would be concerned about how the possibility of war would greatly diminish the number of Jewish people in the world, and that's not to the benefit of Jewish people, like Benjamin Netanyahu. Druze, on the other hand, are technically, according to their own identity, as I understand it, they are Arabs. They're peoples of the Levant. Embrace your brothers, people of the Levant. Put these differences aside, please. Easier said than done. The Druze have what they call a covenant of blood with the state of Israel currently, which is effectively that though they are not all Israeli citizens themselves, Druze people. Some live, as I understand it, on one side of the border with Israel and some on the other. And Syria was technically Syria. Nonetheless, they have committed their sons to fight for the IDF. And so, and in exchange, they expect some degree, some modicum of protection from Israel. Well, meanwhile, in Syria, on the Syrian side of the border, they are being absolutely chewed up and spit out by the current rebel regime that's in the process of overthrowing the Syrian government since the collapse of the Assad government. And so, and they're basically engaged in a civil war. and these Druze are being left out there, more or less to fend for themselves. Who knows how much support they're actually getting? Is it monetary support? Is it weapons? Is it small arms? What is it? But not entirely clear what support Israel is giving them, apart from the IDF coming over the border and working with them in various projects. One of which seems to be that they bring Tim Ballard with them. And Tim Ballard makes videos where he meets with people. And even in one occasion, he actually puts his hands on the head of a Druze man and blesses him in the name of Messiah, which is quite a curious thing. We remember that it has been at this point well over a year since, as a matter of fact, at that point, this was supposedly last year, it has basically been 2 years since Tim Ballard was formally excommunicated from the Mormon Church. He does not have priesthood authority according to the Mormon Church. How I'm not aware of his being ordained, or if that is even a thing among the Druze people. But I'm not aware of his having any kind of authority to bless people in the name of, as clergy, in the name of the spiritual leadership of the Druze people. He does say to the person he is giving this blessing to, a man who has been severely injured in Syria, that he says, "You look in my eyes, you see that I have Druze eyes." Not sure why. You Druze people, if you are out there, is this a thing? You have Druze eyes? I don't know. Apparently Tim Ballard has blue eyes. Do Druze people have blue eyes? I don't know what the hell does that even mean? I have Druze eyes. But the man does agree with him, and he says, and he says to him, "I cannot lie. Look at me. Look at my eyes. I have Druze eyes. That means I cannot lie." And I think they're going, boy, you have to be skilled in the art of bullshit. But it just it's very triggering for an ex-Mormon. It's just this whole light in the eyes thing, look into my eyes, you can see. And because I tell you, maybe it's just the old cynic in me, the old atheist cynic in me, but you want to spot a liar right away. Might start with the guy who has to tell people over and over again, "I cannot lie." You know that I cannot lie. Look in my eyes. That's a guy who's lying to you, guaranteed. If you don't have common sense, let me pour some out on you. But this organization, Druze Nexus, has a combination of people, and you can find some of them here. There's a Rabbi Jarmankani, a Dr. Manal al-Hajli. Forgive me if I mispronounce names. I'm not trying to. I'm trying to get it as close as I can. A certain Hiba al-Atrash, a Dr. Ashraf al-Maturi, a certain Arija Hamza, Marwa Arshid, Alea Arshid, and Riham Jarmarkani. Not all of them are in the Middle East. Apparently, they do all appear to be ethnic Arabs for the most part, and probably actually Druze. But they're from all over the world, including here in the United States. This Rabbi Jarmankani and I believe his daughter, Riham Jarmankani, are in Nigeria, or at least he is. If my memory serves, she is as well. Working as tech consultants, technology consultants at a pretty high level. What they appear to have in common is that they are Druze, and they're scattered throughout the world. And some of them are back in Syria, at least on occasion or on a permanent basis, trying hard to rescue or keep safe as much as possible the Druze people. Now, mind you, all of these people could be taken across the border into Israel and offered safety and security by the state of Israel. But if they do that, and this is just speculation, that I have read about and that I'm thinking about. This is, call it my opinion, that is shared by other people. Benjamin Netanyahu wants these people as cannon fodder on the other side of the wall. He wants to leave them to the wolves. He doesn't want them to all pass away. He wants them to fight against the Syrians, because he is concerned, as he very well should be, that the current rebels taking power in Syria will fight on behalf of Iran and networks based out of Iran, if those networks want them to. I'd say it's probably a good bet. And so Bibi Netanyahu wants them right where they are. He's not going to let them come over the border into Israel, into peace and safety. He needs them to stay there. He needs them to fight, and he needs it to look like they are fighting for their homeland and to preserve and protect themselves and to keep themselves where they are. And so, but at the same time, these are people who have given their sons in a literal, what they literally have called the covenant of blood, to give their sons to fight for Israel. And he needs it to feel and look like he is interested in their survival. And so all of a sudden you have Tim Ballard going in these videos he's been publishing, saying that he is embedded with the IDF, or his friends at the IDF have taken him across the border. He doesn't know how that meant. It's a miraculous thing that the IDF is taking him over the border into Syria, considering that this border with Syria is supposed to be closed. They're not supposed to allow anybody in or out of this border in Syria. And by some miracle, Tim Ballard, who came to Israel, he says, without purse or scrip, without anybody telling him to, without any financial backing, just on his own dime. He's received revelation from Messiah, that's the way he refers to it, since the Lord's church kicked him out. Now he says Messiah, and he says that Messiah sent him on this call. And so he just showed up, got on a plane, went to Jerusalem, a man who is connected directly into multiple aspects of the Trump administration, multiple connections in the Middle East, and apparently, and he claims he just showed up in Jerusalem, just, Lord, show me the way, Inigo Montoya style. Father, in these woods is someone who can help us. And the good Lord just happened to send the IDF to take him across the border into Syria. Oh, I didn't tell the rest of that story. But so Drew's Nexus, who are these people? I have been looking into them. There's only so much information available about them. For the most part, they don't seem to be very high profile people in the world. But they do appear mainly. In fact, there was a moment while I was researching some of them, I said, I don't know if this person is real. This may be just a BS person they just made up. But as I dig deeper, I found LinkedIn pages for some of them. I found videos with them on YouTube and on Facebook Reels. There's a lot of their work is on Facebook. Those of you, if you care to look this up, I would encourage you to punch in their names, go and look up these videos with these people. They do appear to be real, and they do appear to be sincere. And they have every reason to be concerned for their safety over there. And it does kind of break my heart to think that these people have fought so long and hard and given up their sons to fight for Israel, and now are being left out in the cold. And frankly, they're being slaughtered. And now, as far as I understand, whatever the Nazarene Fund was under Glenn Beck when they started, it's gone. At one point, Tim Ballard had set up, allegedly, according to the reporting by Lynn Packer, after he had taken over the Nazarene Project and started to promote himself as the president of the Nazarene Fund, Tim Ballard started a corporation in California where he's from originally. That is the Nazarene Fund, and he had put it on Tim Ballard's secret whiteboard. Remember the Tim Ballard secret whiteboard meeting? It's in here. Here, where's our secret whiteboard? He had put it in there that it was a 501c3. That, it turns out, there you go. Tim Ballard secret whiteboard meeting. It's there. Just trust me. Oh, here we go. Tim Ballard secret whiteboard meeting. Boom, boom. All the associations in Tim Ballard's secret whiteboard meeting, you're going to find the Nazarene Fund, which was an LLC, which is not a nonprofit in California. And I believe at some point he actually listed it at least 1 year as a project of Operation Underground Railroad, which is a nonprofit. So allegedly, at least 1 year, it was a sponsored project of Operation Underground Railroad, which Tim Ballard no longer controls or has any association with, as far as I'm aware, since his ass was ousted from that organization. And so he has since come to be a special consultant on Spear Fund, which appears to have gone nowhere. He also is directly connected to an interesting organization called Aerial Recovery. Still not entirely sure what that was all about. He was wearing their merch. Last I checked, it was connected to some couple out of I think Tennessee or something, or North Carolina, somewhere in the South, and doesn't appear to be much of anything. And then at some point, he started the Tim Ballard Foundation, and apparently the Tim Ballard Foundation is where the money is going now. That's the new Tim Ballard secret whiteboard. So what connection do the Drews people have with Tim Ballard on this? Why Tim Ballard? He's obviously not rescuing anybody. What Tim Ballard is good at is not rescuing people. What Tim Ballard is good at is raising money. And so it would make sense to me that Drew's Nexus, which purports to be a think tank to protect the Drews people, that they need money. Yeah, I feel you. The Church of Korihor feels you if you need money. We need money. But we don't have any Tim Ballards. We only got me, and I can't lie. Look at my eyes. Okay, these are Korihor eyes. Korihor eyes can't lie. You know this. You know this in your heart. You feel that? You feel that? That's the unholy spirit witnessing to you. What you hear is true. I feel for you guys if you need money. And if Tim Ballard could get you that money, get that money. I mean, seriously, these people don't know what to do with their money most of the time. Just get that money. No problem. I got no issue with these people at Drew's Nexus taking Tim Ballard's money. Take all of his money. Okay. But here's the concern. What are you doing with it? Where is it going? And is it going to the people? Is it going to these people? And are they using it to rescue people? Or is somebody in this situation getting rich, including Tim Ballard himself, off of the suffering of these people? And if not, prove it. Because frankly, Tim Ballard has a bad reputation for how he mismanages people's money. This is my opinion based on 3 years now of covering Tim Ballard on my podcast. Again, I get things wrong sometimes. If somebody knows a reason why I am wrong, I'm happy to hear it. I will be happy to apologize. But the frank matter is, I don't see how somebody isn't getting rich off of whatever donations are being made here. And there is probably no accountability. And maybe nobody cares. But if nothing else, my greater concern is that somebody's getting rich off of the donations that are supposed to be going to helping these people, while at the same time Bibi Netanyahu, and I am not an expert in strategy, in warfare, or politics. I understand that. But nonetheless, could at any time choose to protect these people who have given their blood, their family, and their family's blood to protect him. And instead, they're getting Tim Ballard. And if it were me, if I were a spiritual leader among the Druze, and I am not, I am only a spiritual leader for atheists and agnostics, and you Korah whores know I love you. But if it were me, I'd be pretty pissed if I was promised protection and I got Tim Ballard instead. So, how does Tim Ballard and the Tim Ballard Foundation come to be associated with Druze Nexus? It remains to be seen. So there's some interesting mysteries in here. I'm going to tell you one more. So do we have time for one more? You guys want to see one more? Man, I wish I could see that chart. Someone says it's right there on the bottom of the screen. Go to that. You go to that address. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm catching up on the comments right now. Yep. Boom. There it is. It's just Robbie. I hope you were laughing at the look in my eyes. I have Korah eyes. Hey, Robbie, are you who I think you are? Anyways, you just say yes. Just say yes. Oh, you guys want to see one more? Let's look at one more. Okay, here's another one. Oh, we've talked about this group before. A completely unrelated episode of a show I definitely got to bring back in the near future, called the World Congress. Well, the show is called Charlatans Never Change, where we go over religious leaders who are just weird ass blowhards who are full of crap and use the same tactics as charlatans have ever done to exploit people for money and sex and power. Here's a great one. It's called the World Congress of Families. And the 2015 World Congress of Families was held in Salt Lake City, Utah in 2015. This is World Congress of Families 9. I should actually put that in here. We now have the feature just added today to put in an alias. Because this is also called World Congress of Families 9. 999. Oh, I'm not logged in. Screw you. All right. Thank you. We'll call it that from now on. World Congress of Families 99999. 2015 World Congress of Families is connected to Tim Ballard because Tim Ballard spoke at the 2015 World Congress of Families. 1 degree. 2015 World Congress of Families is connected to Tim Ballard, who is connected to Donald Trump, who was a former associate of Jeffrey Epstein. 3 degrees to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, this is not counting associations, right? Because it's counting the whole organization. And I'm trying hard to keep that from ending up in our red letter, in our red string, close mutual associations. The way that I'm avoiding it, and the reason why I'm not panicking about it counting it that way, is because I've made it so that on the actual physical display, it only shows the crimson string attaching persons, doesn't show organizations. But in any event, because this is part of how the cards are populated, it does show me associations between these people. Once again, you can find there's a quick description written up here. When I try to import from Wikipedia, it doesn't give me anything. I have to figure out why that is. That's not pulling anything from Wikipedia, but it doesn't matter because I've mainly tried to find some other people. I've mainly found people by manually importing them one by one because this is super interesting. So you have Tim Ballard who spoke at it. The LDS Church is connected to it because obviously activists inside, people from inside the LDS Church worked to get the World Congress of Families to come to Salt Lake and hosted there. I believe they've had another one, at least one more since then, hosted in Salt Lake. And look at who else you have among the speakers. Nick Vujicic. Remember, he's this guy who spoke with Tim Ballard at the 2025 Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast. Also is and is an evangelist. He also spoke at the 2015 World Congress of Families. Daphne Chen is an interesting character. Basically, she's an author. She's a reporter for Deseret News, who worked at Deseret News under Clark Gilbert, the new Mormon apostle, who is predicted currently to, within probably the next 10 years, become the president and prophet of the Mormon Church. Maybe, maybe not. But in any event, she worked for him. I guess now she works for him too, or at least she works for the Big 15. And she did reporting on Tim Ballard. It's just her job. I'm not saying that she's guilty of anything, but I'm just saying the more you look up Daphne Chen, the more you find Tim Ballard. Rabbi Avremi Zippel was one of the people who spoke. W. Bradford Cox. Those of you who are Mormons or ex-Mormons, that's not who you're thinking of. That's Bradley Cox. Different, Bradley Wilcox, I should say. Different Wilcox, Bradley Wilcox. Lynn Wardle, who is a BYU professor. One of these people is a BYU Idaho professor who served at BYU Idaho. Memory serves at the same time that Clark Gilbert and Kim B. Clark, Mormon general authorities who worked under Larry Summers at Harvard Business School when Jeffrey Epstein was actively involved with Larry Summers. This one of these was a BYU Idaho faculty member at that same time that they had left, that Clark Gilbert and Kim B. Clark had left Harvard Business to go straight over to BYU Idaho. It's also at the same time period when that mysterious email shows up in the Epstein files about a person, a female person, name redacted, for whom Jeffrey Epstein was paying her tuition. And her parents emailed him to say how grateful they were for his paying their daughter's tuition and books and living expenses at BYU Idaho, and that they are hopeful to see him again soon. You Mormons are nuts, man. If you want my advice, if you are the Mormons or ex-Mormons out there who are the parents of this person in the Epstein files, I'm just going to give you a little heads up here. This is too big to leave alone. If you don't want to get doxxed out of the blue, I'm not saying I'm going to dox you. I'm just saying if you don't want to get doxxed out of the clear blue sky, somebody's going to find out who you are. Just come forward. Just come forward and say, this was us. We're not waiting for Wadsworth here to unmask me. Fans of Clue? Any fans of Clue out there? It's a true crime podcast after all. I would just do it. I would just come clean about it and tell your side of the story before you get found out. Who are you Mormons? And what's the story? What did Jeffrey Epstein do to this daughter of yours, or for this daughter of yours? Why are you associated with him? You might as well just come forward. I'm not saying I'm going to dox you. I'm just saying we've seen this before. Somebody's going to dox you. You're going to get found out. M. Russell Ballard is the point. M. Russell Ballard was the keynote speaker at this World Congress of Families. And if we've learned anything about M. Russell Ballard, it is that there are multiple accounts of M. Russell Ballard using his position. This is one instance in which I have to say, surprisingly, I'll come to the defense of Tim Ballard. Tim Ballard was publicly called out by the church's PR department, I think rightfully so, for having traded on the name of his associate and friend, M. Russell Ballard, who was a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. In fact, at the time when that statement was made, M. Russell Ballard was the president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. And if I'm not mistaken, someone correct me if I'm wrong on anything. And And he defended himself saying, I never traded, he rather passionately, in a rather apparent Adderall state, maybe not Adderall, but maybe harder stuff state of mind. Tim Ballard very bodily defended himself in front of a monument in Boston and pointing to the camera saying, send this to the press. I want them to see it. I want everybody. I mean, it was quite the show. It was quite the show. My boy, Timmy, you got to take the Adderall and then come down, brah. You got to take the sniffy sniff. You got to get that booger sugar into a peak and then come down a little bit before you do the video. Don't do the video at the peak. Take it from somebody who knows that roller coaster, the Adderall one, legally prescribed and used without abuse. Nonetheless, let it come down, Broseph. Let it come down a little bit, because that's some potent shit you're dealing with, whatever it is. Bodily defending himself, saying, I never traded on President Ballard's good name. He was like a grandfather to me, blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing. The more we learn about M. Russell Ballard, we learn that he, if anything, traded on Tim's name. That he would call, apparently, Russell Brunson, who is a character, if you don't know, is president, he's in here, is president of ClickFunnels, which is a scam in my opinion, but that's only my opinion, who has made a lot of money. Scams are popular in Utah. That he got a call from Russell Brunson, from President Ballard, and that he had no idea who Tim Ballard was. If you don't know, Russell Brunson is one of the few people who still defends Tim Ballard, as far as I've heard, and has written a book with Tim Ballard about fighting trafficking, and has apparently given Tim Ballard quite a bit of money. And I don't blame him for wanting Tim Ballard's story to be true, especially because he, in a video that he published recently after the allegations that came out about Tim Ballard abusing the women who worked for him, Russell Brunson came forward to say that he knows Tim Ballard to be doing God's work effectively, because M. Russell Ballard called him, had his assistant call Russell Brunson and tell him, I have President Ballard on the phone. He wants to know if you have a minute. Prophet, seer, and revelator calls you, and you are a good Mormon boy. You take that call. So he says, yeah, absolutely, I'll take the call. And President Ballard basically got on the phone to tell him that Tim Ballard was doing God's work with Operation Underground Railroad, and that he'd like for them to meet so that Russell Brunson could donate him a significant quantity of money to get Operation Underground Railroad off to a good start, apparently, allegedly, without telling him that President Ballard was according to the Tim Ballard secret whiteboard meeting, a silent partner in a for-profit venture connected to that Operation Underground Railroad, according to the whiteboard drawn by Tim Ballard, allegedly, and photographed by Paul Hutchinson, his main financier, allegedly. In any event, Dr. Miriam Grossman is also in there. Janice Shaw Krause, PhD, is an interesting character that might be worth a look into if people are out there doing their own research. She was the executive director of this World Congress of Families. So she almost certainly picked or signed off on who all the speakers were, including President Ballard and or Tim Ballard. No blood relation, apparently, but whom Tim Ballard still refers to President Ballard as being like a grandfather to him. And as far as I could tell, that probably was true. Then you have a woman named Katerina Odorchenko. I don't remember her deal. But you have all these characters who are very interesting. As I was adding them in, I was like, interesting connections. This Janice Shaw Krause was a speechwriter for President Bush 1. HW. Not W, but HW. She also is a longtime pro-life activist. She is apparently a PhD. Well, actually, I mean, she's in here, so I might as well tell you. I might as well pull her up for you. Okay. I'm gonna make this. One of my goals is to make this whole map cluster a little bit better, so it's easier to see things. Um, Kraus, different Kraus than Lawrence. That's Lawrence. That's Kraus with a K. Okay, so Janice Shaw Kraus. She is connected to Tim Ballard because she allegedly invited him to speak at this Congress. 1 degree to Tim Ballard, and she's connected to Tim Ballard, who's connected to Donald Trump, former associate. So for that reason, she doesn't end up inside the crimson string because she's connected to both Jeffrey and Tim Ballard, Jeffrey and Timmy through the same node, which is Tim Ballard. Well, it's herself, I guess, in this situation. In any event, she's executive director of 2015. Blah 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 blah. All that you already know. Let's see here. Well, yeah. Well, let me just go and put it in there. This was copied and pasted from an archived page on the Wayback Machine. Executive director of 2015 World Congress of Families 9, where Tim Ballard spoke. From archived description of her at the Institute of Religion and Democracy. Senior fellow at Beverly LaHaye Institute, the think tank for Concerned Women for America, is a recognized authority on sex trafficking, the United Nations, U.S. domestic issues, as well as national and international cultural, children's, and women's concerns. She has twice served the president as an official delegate to the United Nations, 2002 and 2003. That's WW. She serves on 5 national task forces and coalitions on national and international issues against sexual trafficking, against abuse of women, against childhood obesity, promoting human rights, and promoting religious freedom. The Heritage Foundation nominated her for the 2003 Bradley Prize for her influence on contemporary issues. So, and apparently she is connected to Tim Ballard and M. Russell Ballard. No word that I can tell on whether or not she is Mormon, but I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, interesting connections. So yeah, who is the missing link between Tim Ballard and Alan Dershowitz? Don't yet have solid proof of it, but for my money, I'm putting it on. It is Glenn Beck. And that's how we do that. So it's pretty curious. It is curious to see how this all pans out. I mentioned this before in a previous. Oh, we're already over a 2-hour line. Thanks for being with me, guys. I know it's late. It's already midnight here in Utah, and tomorrow at this time, I should be on a plane to Virginia. What's happening in Virginia? Who knows? Apart from that, my love is there. I can't wait to see them and be with them probably at least a month before coming back and building the Church of Korihor here on the West Coast. And I'm going to be doing as much work on the East Coast as I can, while mainly trying to figure out my work situation, which has turned a little bit sketchy. Not morally sketchy. It's a little up in the air, my paying work. So going to go out there, be with my love while I can, spending some time, quality time together, working on their compound and compound, their commune. Who knows anymore? And then hopefully, if there's time and or resources, maybe get out into the countryside and do a little bit of networking. One of the things that we're doing at the Church of Korihor is to start building networks and ordain members of our godless clergy to work with mutual aid groups to make sure that people who are vulnerable, especially women who are victims of domestic violence, or anyone who's victims of domestic violence, and children the same, and people who are immigrants, people who are unsheltered, to get food, blankets, and as best we can, to help them find shelter, transportation, safety, and look out for these people. If you aren't aware, we are currently also already here in southern Utah working with a mutual aid group called SUMAC, Southern Utah Mutual Aid Coalition, which is already collecting food items for persons here in southern Utah who are unable to go to work, shall we say. If you want to support us, it definitely is a good it definitely is a good cause. What are them 29 taxes they just implemented in Virginia? I don't know. I'll have to look. Just get a job at Liberty. Is Liberty Mutual hiring? Just kidding. I should get a job at Liberty University. I one of my best godless sermons I preached last year when I went on my godless sermon tour was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But apparently the guy who told me I should go there, Steve Pinecker of Mormon Book Reviews, he's like, "What did you think of the campus?" And I said, "What campus?" I'm like, "I went and preached downtown in the street." And he's like, "Really?" But he thought I should have gone to the what's it called, Oral University. What's it called, Oral? Anyways, yeah, the big evangelical university. He's like, "It's like the most modern university you'll ever find. It's very impressive." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." But in any event, my intention is to do as much work as I can while I'm out east, especially in the areas of Oklahoma, Tennessee, Virginia, and maybe even get over into Washington D.C., do some work in the district if I can. But we always need resources to be able to do these things. To wit, it's always a good thing to remember that you can always support the Church of Korihor by going to korihor.org, give. You click on the give button, and all the money in that instance, when you give money at the give link, all that money goes to the work. So either it goes to purchasing items or paying for gas or materials so that we can do the work. None of that goes to anybody's salaries or even to defray the cost of the church. The only resources that go to defraying the cost of the church are either for-profit taxable items that we sell, like merch, which we're not doing much of yet, or the money's donated to the Church of Korihor at the donate link, or particularly people who give, who become contributors to the Church of Korihor for $48 a year. Currently, it's $48 a year. We'll see. We do not ask anybody to give tithing. If you have money to give, we greatly appreciate it. But in my constant request, I tell people, don't give it to me. Don't give it to the church. Give it to the people we're helping. We'll make it available as often as possible, as much as possible, to make sure that we are linking to people so that you can go and help out organizations that have been brave enough to partner up with a godless church. I'm very happy to say that is still Cherish Families, great organization down in Colorado City, that of women and children, families that have been abandoned by the Mormon polygamists since their leader and prophet Warren Jeffs was arrested and thrown into prison, where he hopefully will languish the rest of his awful, wicked life. We're going out there and helping these people. We just had an auction that closed on Sunday. Our event on last Sunday that happened a little too close, I guess, to St. George Thrive. But, we're learning as we go. We raised almost $500 to go to this organization, Cherish Families. It's not nearly enough. But if you don't know, this organization, we've vetted them. We've been to their facilities down in Colorado City. They are an organization mainly run by ex-polygamists who, and all that I have met so far are women who have left polygamy and who were, we had Jude, who is going to be featured on some podcasts that she met up with at our event this last Sunday. Maybe one of the greatest things that came out of this event that we held here in St. George. Um, Gave her story about how she was trafficked or given in an arranged marriage at 17 years old to a Mormon polygamist man, and how she escaped and got from away from here, got to Vegas. And she said, Joe, you mentioned the thing because I am to tell people because it really brings it home to people. A lot of these women, they've never had a checking account in their lives. You got women 40, 50, 60 years old or older. Never had a checking account in their lives. Don't know how to open one. Don't know what it takes. Some of these people, they don't have social security cards. Boy, is this a bright light. How's it going? Some of them don't have, social security cards, don't know where their, birth certificates are, if they have them. Some of them have high school diplomas with no real high school education behind them. Remember that Warren Jeffs was the principal of the high school of the K through 12 program down there in Colorado City. And suffice it to say, the education they got there was suboptimal, including, spending hours listening to audio tapes, like cassette tapes of Warren Jeffs droning on and on to them about purity and about the gospel and following the prophet and obeying whatever the prophet says, blah, 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 blah. That was their education. Then he gets his ass thrown in prison. These people have never had jobs. They don't have resumes, many of them. They've never had a debit card, some cases, or if they did, it belonged to the church and they were appropriated resources by the church, which no longer exists effectively. And the men who were supposed to be caring for all these women split up the money and all the assets. And if they weren't arrested, they split up the money and took off. And so now we have these women who are trying to rebuild their lives. And this organization, Cherish Families, is down there helping them. So I would encourage all of you, if you've got money to give, of course we will take some because frankly we need some. As much as you feel willing to give, you can go to korahor.org. You can click on the donate button to give to the church, but give to the give button if you want to give to our mission. But if nothing else, go to Cherish Families and just give to them. Also, there's an organization called SUMAC, Southern Utah Mutual Aid Coalition, who are working to help people in need in Southern Utah, and particularly to help immigrants who are afraid to leave, many of them afraid to leave their homes. And so they're looking right now for dried foods like beans and rice and things like this. I know that seems, they have actually requested this. So they're working directly with people in the community to correlate what items they need. They have a Zephy link. I'll be putting that up on the website here this evening so that people will be able to give directly to them. So, but if not, just look up SUMAC. That's SUMAC. If you find Southern Utah Mutual Aid Coalition, that's them, and they need your help as much as possible. I hope to be able to do this work for the rest of my life. That's my ambition, my goal. The Church of Korahor is a church of godless people who are caring, and we love our fellow human beings. We want to make life worth living for ourselves, for other people. Anyway, I've done enough almost preaching. My plan at current is to give a godless sermon from Virginia. My internet out there is a little bit spotty. So I'm going to do my best to get it done. I'll ask you guys to be patient with me if it ends up being in fits and starts. But we'll be doing we'll be doing the show from there from now on. What else had I wanted to bring up with you guys? Church business. Yeah, don't be surprised if I suddenly show up on Friday with some big announcement, but this is exciting. I want to let you guys know that I love you and that I'm hopeful that we are going to have a much better year here in the short term. I did announce, by the way, on Sunday
and haven't yet announced on the website or put together a formal calendar, that we have canonized our second festival, our second formal holiday, godless holiday of the Church of Korihor, which is February the 22nd. And every year on February 22nd, you can celebrate our godless holiday. We invite all of you to celebrate in a way that seems appropriate for you. And that I won't, should I play it? Should I not play it? I won't play it here, but you can find it on our website under hymns. You can also find it if you're logged into YouTube as a person over the age of 18, because it's been marked as for adults. We have a song that it commemorates this holiday that I wrote and created while the occupation was on. And the song is called Get the Fuck Out. And maybe I will just play it. And then if we get flagged, we get flagged. I did just say the word, so it doesn't, I guess it probably doesn't matter. Song is called Get the Fuck Out. And the holiday going forward shall be Twin City Liberation, because it was on this date in February, and this past week of February, that the occupation of Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota wound down, because the neighbors of Alex Preddy and Renee Nicole Good stood shoulder to shoulder and did not relent, even when it turned to violence. They did not use violence. Even when it turned to death, they did not use death. They stood beside each other and showed us all that when courageous people of conscience stand together against oppression, we can win. We have Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota to thank for that. We have these people to thank for that. Let us all live up to their example every year and celebrate. And I would suggest one way, a good way to celebrate, is to find Renee Nicole Good's poetry, and find a place where you can gather with friends and get up to read Renee Good's poetry. And I will remind you that it now has been 1 month since the Minnesota medical examiner concluded on the death certificate of Alex Preddy that his cause of death was murder. And no charges have been filed. We are people, all of us. We are people who can make a difference. We can make life better, especially for marginalized people. And if it's going to happen, it's going to be godless people who make it happen. Amen, amen. All right, let's close out. I opened up today with one of the songs I'm experimenting with for our new for the documentary that I am making, which will be produced separately from the Church of Korihor, but I thought was exciting. That song was Jezebel, from the documentary I'm making about Mormons and sex. But I have more. And so we're going to go ahead and play for you another experimental song for our show Undergrounder. We'll see how you like this one. If you like it any better than the last one, I love your faces, and Flash Bright.
Tim Ballard, he walks in slow, big grin, big hair, big show. Telling secrets on live TV. This one's classified, but it's all about me. Oh yeah. Woo! Daytime darling on every screen. Gold-plated badge from his own daydream. Shouting undercover to the studio crowd. Top secret story said way too loud. He signs his name on the teleprompter. He's his own boss, his own sponsor. feeling holy and wild. From a K-hole cloud to a bedtime smile. It is Jesus jammies, he's the hero of the night. Undergrounder, make believe fighting, make believe fight. Nighttime hits and the colors smear. He winks at the mirror, the danger's near. Slides on flannel like a sacred suit. Puts his faith in socks and bunny-eared boots. He dives through shadows only he can see. High five ghosts on imaginary streets. Hugs invisible kids on a cardboard train. Freeze frame flex in a hallway of fame. Undergrounder, undergrounder, he's a one-man mission in rerun land. Undergrounder, selling big dreams with an open hand. When the credits roll, was it all in his head? Just a tall tale told from a single bed. It is Jesus jammies, he can rewrite the crime. Undergrounder, same wild story. One more time. Spotlight preacher, late night, chasing applause in a neon light. Is it faith? Is it fiction? Is it ego